You don't even have enough for rent this month, and you're out here feeding a guy who doesn't even say thank you. Kayla's coworker Jen snapped, her voice slicing through the hum of the diner like a knife. Half the room turned to stare, truckers pausing mid-bite, the old man in the corner lowering his coffee mug. Kayla's heart sank. Ouch! Did Jen have to yell it out for the whole world to hear? She bit her lip, fighting the sting of those words, but she didn't argue. No, she just kept packing the soup into that little foam cup, her hand steady despite the tremble inside. Same time, same bench, same silence, every night for 6 months straight. Who was this man, anyway? No one knew. No one cared. But Kayla? She cared, oh, how she cared. And then, one wild night, when flames roared and a child's cries pierced the air, that same man marched straight into the fire. Days later, when 3 sleek black SUVs rolled up outside the diner, he stepped out, stars glinting on his shoulders, every soldier behind him snapping to attention. Can you believe it? Welcome to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness light up the darkness. Let's dive into what really happened, shall we? Fall Ridge, New Mexico, was a speck of a town, a place with one diner, one high school football team, and one blinking traffic light stuck on yellow for, a year now. It was the kind of place where everyone knew your dog's name but couldn't tell you your dreams if their life depended on it. The sunsets? Stunning, long stretches of orange and pink bleeding into the desert sky. But the silence that followed? Deafening. At 7:12 every night, a girl in oil-stained sneakers trudged down the cracked sidewalk of Elm Street. Past the overgrown lots, past the shuttered hardware store, she walked, always clutching a paper bag. She didn't dress to be seen, worn hoodie, messy ponytail, one headphone dangling like she couldn't commit to the music. Her name was Kayla Monroe, 26, a waitress at the rundown gas station diner off Route 19. Kayla had a tired beauty, earned, not given. Late nights and early mornings had carved faint lines around her eyes, bills paid late had etched worry into her brow, but her small kindnesses, they shone like stars. She lived above a pawn shop in a cramped one-bedroom with her 14-year-old brother, Noah. Their mom had slipped away from heart failure 2 winters back, God, how that hurt, and their dad. He'd vanished long before, leaving Kayla to carry it all, rent, groceries, school meetings, scraped knees, heating bills, and a winter jacket for Noah with no holes. Her life was a loop, wasn't it? Wake up, brew coffee, pack leftovers, serve truckers and construction workers, count every measly tip, trudge home, repeat. But one moment in that loop never wavered, oh no, it held steady as a rock. Across from Lot 23, just before Baylor Avenue, stood a wooden fence, its paint peeling like forgotten promises. Behind it? Nothing but empty land, tangled weeds, and rusted tin. And beside that fence, every single night, sat a man. Who was he? No one knew his name. The neighborhood kids dubbed him, Ghost. How creepy is that? Some whispered he'd been a miner, others swore he drifted in after the mill fire. He looked like a shadow, old army coat hanging loose, graying beard wild, skin weathered like the desert itself. He didn't beg, didn't budge, just sat there, hands in his lap, staring ahead. Was he waiting for something? Something that never came. Most folks crossed the street to avoid him. Some muttered under their breath. A few pitied him from afar. But Kayla? She noticed. The first time she left something, it wasn't planned, can you imagine? Just a ham and cheese sandwich from her shift, still wrapped in foil. It was cold that night, and he looked thinner than ever. She didn't say a word, just stopped, crouched, and set it near him on the sidewalk. He didn't flinch, didn't glance her way. But half a block later, she peeked back, gone. The next night, she brought a thermos of soup, steaming hot. Then clean socks, then a half-used blanket from her locker. Thanks. She didn't expect it. He never spoke, but every gift vanished into his quiet world. That sparked a ritual, 6 months strong. Sometimes she left fruit, an apple, bruised but sweet. Other times, it was diner leftovers she'd packed before her shift. She'd scribble little labels in marker, tuna salad, no mayo, or meatloaf, plus mash, still warm. One night, she even left a cupcake with a single blue sprinkle, just because. Why not, right? He never answered. But once, after she slipped a note saying, "Take care. It's getting cold," she came back to find the napkin folded into a perfect triangle, right where she'd left the bag. How sweet was that? Another night, rain poured, her jacket soaked through, and he wasn't there. She almost walked away, but something tugged at her. She left the food anyway. Next night, he was back, and that plastic container sat on his lap, rinsed and returned. Why did it matter so much? Maybe because he reminded her of someone who'd battled the invisible, herself, maybe. His silence wasn't empty, it was heavy, like it held 1,000 untold stories. The other waitresses teased her mercilessly. "Feeding your ghost again," one laughed. "They don't tip, you know," another smirked. Kayla just smiled, let them laugh. This wasn't charity. It was dignity. She'd been there, eating crackers so Noah could have a real meal, handing over her gloves to someone shivering worse than her. She didn't want applause, didn't dream of sainthood. She just couldn't bear anyone feeling forgotten. And that man? He looked like the world had erased him. What Kayla didn't know, what no one knew, was that he hadn't always been a ghost. He was General Hayden Roth, commander of the 5th Special Forces Group, a decorated veteran, a father, a husband. A man who'd once commanded rooms with steel in his voice and fire in his hands, until that chopper crashed. A routine transport gone wrong, a storm hit too fast. Communications scrambled, the fire blazed, and when Hayden crawled out, burned and bleeding, his mind didn't follow. Memory loss hit hard, faces blurred, names faded, orders dissolved into whispers. No ID, no dog tags, no fingerprints, his last mission was Black Ops, classified beyond reach. He wandered, weeks, then months, each step stripping away the man he'd been until he landed in Fall Ridge, a shadow by a fence, staring at a world that didn't know him anymore. But something lingered, a shard of honor, a reflex of stillness, buried deep in his broken mind. And then came Kayla, the girl who didn't flinch, who left food without fear, who saw him when no one else did. He didn't know her name, but every night, when she set that paper bag by his side, something flickered, duty, memory, something. She didn't realize it, but she was about to do what no doctor, no psychologist, no government could do in 3 years. She was bringing General Roth back, not with medals or barked orders, but with kindness. The quiet kind, the kind that shows up every night, no matter what. In a world that forgot him, she remembered, how incredible is that? For 184 nights, Kayla never skipped her stop by that fence. Fall Ridge barely blinked, life rolled on. The gas station buzzed under its burnt orange neon, the high school team fumbled another championship, and the same old men sipped the same bad coffee in the same diner booth. But for Kayla and the man, a steady rhythm pulsed. Some nights, she brought chili in a foam cup, wrapped tight in cling wrap, warmth against the chill. Other times, a peanut butter sandwich with a note, "Be safe. It's windy tonight." Even when her paycheck lagged, she scrounged something, a boiled egg, a slice of bread. He never missed a night, neither did she. 6 months, 0 words, yet they spoke volumes, didn't they? One October Thursday, she left hot chocolate, steaming and sweet, and an old paperback from a charity bin. Next night, the thermos gleamed clean, the book creased at page 47, waiting for her. She grinned, did he like it? He never left trash, always folded her napkins, snapped lids back on tight. When kids spray-painted "loser" across the fence in angry red, it was scrubbed clean by dawn, his doing. Winter hit, and she left a blanket, thick and worn. Next evening, he wore it, tucked under his chin. She'd never seen him sleep, always sitting, watching. But others noticed her now. Jen scoffed, "You're feeding a guy who doesn't even say thank you." The night manager growled, "You're not a charity." Even her landlord muttered, "Too soft, Kayla." Soft? Maybe, but wasn't that her strength? Then came the storm, winds howling, power lines snapping, snow burying Fall Ridge. Warnings blared, but Kayla trudged out, soup and gloves in hand. He was there, blanket tight, head bowed. "I hope you remember who you are," she whispered, leaving the bag. That night, something sparked in him, a name, a rank, a memory. 3 nights later, the town limped back to normal, but he was gone. Where'd he go? She left food anyway, heart sinking. Then, a fire erupted at the laundromat, flames wild, screams echoing. Kayla rushed in for a trapped child, only to get trapped herself. Suddenly, a figure loomed through the smoke, him, carrying her and the kid to safety. Who was this man? Days later, 2 suits knocked on her door. "He's General Hayden Roth," they said, "missing 3 years. Collapsed at a VA hospital, mumbling your name." Kayla visited, tears welled as he thanked her. Word spread, reporters swarmed, military brass filled the diner. Roth returned, uniform crisp, medals gleaming, saluting her before everyone. "For your service," he declared, handing her a custom challenge coin. The town shifted, veterans poured in, a bench rose where she'd helped him. Roth launched the KM initiative for civilians like her. In the end, Kayla's kindness didn't just save a man, it lit up a community. How's that for a ripple effect? She had a feeling it wasn't the city that scrubbed the fence clean every night. Winter was creeping in, cold and relentless, and Kayla couldn't just sit by. She scraped together a few bucks, bought a second-hand blanket, soft, faded blue, and rolled it tight, tying it with a piece of twine she found in the diner's storage closet. That night, under a sky heavy with stars, she left it by the fence without a word, her breath puffing out in little clouds. The next evening, oh, what a sight! There it was, draped over his shoulders, the corner tucked gently under his chin like a child might do. He never slept, always sitting there, eyes wide open, watching the world pass by. But now, people were starting to notice. At the diner, the air thick with the smell of burnt coffee and grease, Jen leaned over one afternoon as Kayla wrapped a leftover burrito in foil. "You're not taking that to him again, are you?" she asked, her voice sharp with disbelief. Kayla didn't answer, just kept her hands busy. Jen scoffed, loud enough for the whole kitchen to hear, "You don't even have enough for rent this month, and you're out here feeding a guy who doesn't even say thank you." Another day, the night manager at the gas station, his apron stained with motor oil, muttered as Kayla packed steaming soup into a container, "If you've got extra food, maybe bring it to the break room." "You're not a charity, Kayla." Even her landlord, Mrs. Collins, caught her one evening coming back without her gloves, her hands red from the cold. "You're too soft, girl," she said, shaking her head. "One day you'll have nothing left to give." But Kayla didn't argue. She didn't explain. She just kept showing up, night after night, because she knew something they didn't. She wasn't giving out of abundance, she barely had enough to scrape by. No, she was giving because she understood what it meant to feel empty, invisible, and how much it mattered when someone, anyone, noticed you anyway. But then came that one evening, a brutally cold Wednesday that bit at her bones. She arrived late, her shift at the diner dragging on with spilled coffee and rude customers. Exhausted, her feet aching in her worn-out sneakers, she still walked that same path down Elm Street, the wind whistling through the bare trees. The moment she turned the corner, she froze. He wasn't alone. A boy, maybe 11, was standing in front of him, yelling something nasty, his voice high and cruel. Behind him, 2 teens snickered, one filming with a phone, the other tossing a crushed soda can that clattered at the man's feet. How dare they? Kayla's blood boiled, her heart pounding in her chest. Hey, she shouted, storming toward them, her voice cutting through the icy air. Leave him alone. The teens bolted, scattering like startled birds, but the man didn't move, didn't flinch. She knelt beside him, the snow crunching under her knees, and her heart broke at the sight of his hands, once still, now shaking ever so slightly. She set the food down gently, the warmth of it seeping through the container. They're cowards, she whispered, her voice trembling with fury and sorrow. Don't let them steal your peace. He said nothing, just looked at her, and for the first time, their eyes truly met. Oh, what a moment. In that gaze, she didn't see a homeless man broken by the world, she saw a warrior, fierce and proud, who'd somehow forgotten how to fight for himself. She stood, brushing snow off her jeans, and stepped back. Good night, she whispered, her breath catching in her throat. The next evening, something incredible happened. Beside the food container, she spotted it, a small, rough rock, painted with shaky white letters, thanks. Oh, how her heart swelled. Tears stung her eyes as she walked home, the rock clutched in her hand, her boots leaving prints in the fresh snow. From that day on, she started writing to him, little notes tucked into napkins, simple but full of care, hope you're warm tonight. Clouds look like they'll snow. Someone cares that you're still here. He never wrote back, but every time, he'd place the note inside the empty container, folded neatly, never torn. It was their silent conversation, a thread of connection in a world that seemed to have forgotten him. Meanwhile, Kayla's life grew tougher. The diner cut her hours, fewer tips, less money. Noah, her little brother, needed braces, and the orthodontist wasn't cheap. Rent went up again, the landlord's notice taped coldly to her door. Some nights, she skipped dinner, her stomach growling, just so Noah wouldn't go hungry. But she never skipped that stop by the fence. How could she? Somehow, knowing he was still there, enduring the cold, the hunger, the silence, gave her the strength to keep going too. Then came the storm, a freak cold snap that sliced through New Mexico like a blade. Winds roared at 40 miles per hour, power lines snapped with sharp cracks, and schools shut their doors. The diner closed early, the open sign flickering out. Snow fell thick, wet, and fast, blanketing Fall Ridge in white. Everyone begged her to go straight home, but at 7:12, Kayla stepped out into the chaos, a thermos of chicken soup in one hand, gloves stuffed in her coat pocket, her boots wrapped in grocery bags to keep out the wet. The wind stung her cheeks raw, her breath burned in her lungs, but she walked on. And when she reached the fence, there he was. Blanket pulled tight, head bowed, a soldier holding the line against the storm. She approached slowly, her boots sinking into the snow. I brought soup, she said, her voice nearly lost in the howling wind. No reply. She crouched, opened the thermos, and set it down, steam rising in the frigid air. Then, carefully, she placed the gloves beside it. He didn't move, didn't look up. She studied him, really looked, his posture, his steady eyes, the way he sat so still. This wasn't a man who'd been broken. This was a man trained not to break. I don't know who you are, she whispered, her words trembling with wonder, but I hope one day you remember. That night, her brother Noah waited by the window, watching for her through the swirling snow. She stumbled home, freezing, tired, but smiling, because something had shifted. She didn't know it yet, but across town, in that very moment, the man's breath quickened, his fingers twitched, and in his foggy, splintered mind, a spark flared, a name, a rank, a memory. It wasn't all back, but it had begun. 3 nights after the storm, Fall Ridge clawed its way back to normal. The streets turned slushy, power hummed back on, and the diner's hot meals neon sign buzzed like always. For most, the cold snap was just a story to tell. But not for Kayla Monroe. Her gloves were gone, left behind with that cup of soup, and the word, remember, she'd scratched into the lid haunted her. At the diner, she moved slower, her smiles rarer. Her mind kept drifting, to the man by the fence, to that rock-painted thanks, to the fire in his eyes that first night he'd looked back. She didn't see him for 3 days. Then Thursday night rolled in. She was on the late shift, the cook called out, so she juggled the grill and the counter, hands aching from scrubbing pans, back throbbing from standing too long. Still, at 6:15 p.m., she prepared a small meal, a grilled cheese sandwich, apple slices, and a flask of warm tea. She tucked a note inside, "It's quiet without you. Hope you're okay." She clocked out at 7, then started her walk down Elm Street, the sidewalk lined with dirty snowbanks, street lamps casting weak orange light. When she turned the corner to the fence, empty. No blanket, no boots, no man. Her heart sank like a stone. She stood there, clutching the bag, her breath puffing out in short, panicked clouds. Was he sick? Had the cold taken him? 1,000 fears raced through her mind. She set the food down gently, tucking it between the fence boards to keep it dry. "Please be okay," she whispered, turning to walk home. But before she reached the corner, a bang. Glass shattered, and the crackle of fire split the air. Kayla spun around. Smoke poured from the strip mall across from the diner, the old laundromat glowing orange as flames devoured the roof. She ran, her instincts screaming. A woman outside wailed, "My daughter, she's inside." She ran back for her scarf. Kayla didn't hesitate, she dropped her bag, yanked open the door, and plunged into the smoke and heat. Visibility was gone, the air thick and choking. She crouched low, shouting, "Hello. I'm coming." She heard a faint, panicked cough and stumbled toward it, eyes burning. Near the last row of machines, she found her, a girl, maybe 6, curled behind a laundry basket. "It's okay, I've got you." Kayla scooped her up, but the exit was a wall of flame. The ceiling groaned, plaster crashing down. She ducked behind a row of washers, shielding the girl, her scarf over her nose as her vision blurred. Then, a deafening crash. Metal tore open, cold air blasted in, and a figure emerged through the smoke, tall, broad, moving with purpose. Boots stomped through ash, a thick coat swaying. He didn't speak, just lifted Kayla with one arm, the girl with the other, and carried them out into the snowy lot. Fresh air hit her lungs, sirens wailed in the distance. She collapsed, the girl sobbing beside her. "Wait." Kayla coughed, looking up. "Who?" But he was gone, vanished into the shadows, leaving only footprints in the snow. The next day, she returned to the fence, nothing. No blanket, no food, no gloves, just silence. She came again the next night, still nothing. Then, on Sunday morning, as she laced up her boots for work, a knock rattled her apartment door. Noah was still asleep, so she opened it to find 2 men in suits, their faces serious. "Do you know Hayden Roth?" they asked. "He says you saved his life." "Who?" Her heart raced as they explained. The man was General Hayden Roth, missing for 3 years after a helicopter crash, lost to the world until he'd collapsed at a VA hospital, clutching that rock-painted thanks and mumbling her name. When Kayla visited him, his voice was steady, his eyes clear. "You brought me back," he said, one paper bag at a time. Oh, what a miracle her kindness had sparked. "Miss Monroe?" one of them asked, flashing a government ID that gleamed under the dim light. "Do you know a man named Hayden Roth?" Kayla blinked, her breath catching in her throat. Hayden Roth? Who was that? The name didn't spark even a flicker of recognition. No, I don't think so," she managed, her voice shaky with uncertainty. The man shot a quick, mysterious glance at his partner. Oh, what did that mean? And Kayla's stomach twisted into knots. "He says you saved his life." Saved his life? Her knees wobbled, nearly giving out beneath her. How could that be? When? Her mind spun like a top as the agents laid it all out, their words hitting her like a tidal wave. 2 nights ago, can you imagine, a man had collapsed, helpless, on the steps of a VA hospital. No ID, no phone, barely able to string a sentence together. But wait, here's the kicker, in his ragged coat pocket, they found a small rock painted with the word, thanks, and a crumpled napkin scribbled with, someone cares that you're still here. And through his delirious mumbles, one name kept tumbling out, Kayla. The doctors scanned his fingerprints, and, bam, everything changed in an instant. General Hayden Roth, former commander of the Special Forces Group, missing in action for 3 whole years after a covert operation went horribly wrong in northern Syria. A helicopter crash, no wreckage, no survivors, everyone thought he was gone forever. A closed case, sealed and forgotten, until now. They found him alive, disoriented, dehydrated, clinging to life, and somehow, against all odds, he remembered her. Kayla sank onto the couch, stunned beyond belief. Her hands trembled like autumn leaves. "You're saying he was the man by the fence," she whispered, barely daring to believe it. The agent nodded, his eyes steady. "He's in stable condition now, asking for you." Relief crashed over her, oh, sweet relief, but guilt and awe tangled up inside her too. What was she supposed to feel? That night, she went to the hospital, her heart hammering with every step down that endless hallway. When she stepped into the room, she almost didn't recognize him. Cleaned up, wrapped in a hospital gown with an IV dripping into his arm, could this really be him? But those eyes. Fierce yet quiet, they locked onto hers the second she appeared. He sat up straighter, as if her presence lit a fire in him. "You came," he rasped, his voice steady despite the strain. Kayla swallowed hard, her throat tight with emotion. I didn't know your name," she admitted, her voice trembling. "You didn't need to," he said, his gaze piercing her soul. "You remembered me when I didn't remember myself." Tears sprang to her eyes, how could they not, and they sat there, wrapped in a silence that said more than words ever could. Then, with a voice thick with gratitude, he said, "For months, you brought me back, one paper bag at a time. Can you believe it?" One simple act, repeated, had pulled him from the brink. She couldn't speak, just nodded, her heart swelling. As she turned to leave, he lifted his hand, old, scarred, but so steady, and saluted her. A salute. Kayla froze, her breath stolen away. Then, slowly, she pressed her hand to her heart and smiled through the tears streaming down her face. Word of General Hayden Roth's return exploded like wildfire. Within 48 hours, Fall Ridge, a sleepy little town that never saw anything wilder than the 4th of July parade, was buzzing with life. Reporters swarmed, military vehicles rolled in, and whispers flew through the air like sparks. Every booth in the diner overflowed with chatter, they said he was dead. 3 years by that fence, can you imagine? The girl with the food, that was her. Kayla didn't answer their questions, no way. She kept working, ladling soup, pouring coffee, but inside, her world had flipped upside down. 2 days after that hospital visit, her phone rang. "Miss Monroe, this is Colonel David Harrow from the Department of Defense. General Roth would like to speak with you again, and if you're willing, we'd like to honor your role in his recovery." Honor her? For what? Being decent. Kayla waved off the ceremony, she didn't need the fuss. She wasn't some hero. But the colonel wouldn't take no for an answer, they had to deliver something in person. That Friday, 3 sleek black SUVs screeched up to the diner. Forks froze midair, coffee cups hovered, everyone stared. Out stepped soldiers, crisp and decorated, silent as shadows. One opened the rear door, and there he was, Hayden Roth, in full dress uniform, clean-shaven, hair trimmed, standing tall like he'd never left the battlefield. He marched into the diner with that quiet, unshakable focus he'd carried for 25 years and stopped right in front of Kayla. The room went dead silent. "Ma'am," he said, his voice ringing with authority, "permission to stand at attention." Kayla blinked, flustered. "What?" He straightened, snapped his right hand to his brow, and saluted her. Oh my goodness, a salute. Every soldier behind him mirrored it. Customers leapt to their feet, the cook stumbled out, apron flapping, totally lost. No one dared breathe. Tears spilled down Kayla's cheeks as Roth lowered his hand. "You reminded a soldier who he was," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "When the world forgot, you remembered. When I couldn't speak, you fed me. When I had nothing, you gave without asking." He stepped aside, and another soldier handed her a velvet box. Inside, a custom military challenge coin, one side his unit's insignia, the other engraved with, "For service without recognition, KM." She stared at it, breathless. "This," he said, "is from all of us, for all the nights you thought no one noticed." The soldiers filed out, but Roth paused, glancing back. "I'll be in touch," he promised, then disappeared into the sunlight. Kayla stood there, clutching the coin, tears pouring down her face. Fall Ridge had never been so quiet. That night, she walked past the fence. Someone had cleaned the bench, fresh varnish gleamed, and a tiny plaque shone, "This spot once held a soldier. This spot once held a friend. This spot will always hold respect." She sat, watching the sunset, no paper bag tonight, just a girl, a memory, and a man who now remembered everything. A week later, Fall Ridge buzzed, not with reporters, but with veterans. Young, old, in uniform or jeans, they all asked, "Is this where she gave him food?" They didn't want fame, just coffee, a moment by the window where Hayden Roth once sat. Kayla quietly renamed the booth, leaving a folded napkin, a clean plate, and a note, reserved for the forgotten. Then one morning, a letter was taped to the diner door, a photo of Roth in uniform and bold words, "Lieutenant General Hayden Roth." He'd started the KM initiative, a grant for quiet kindness to veterans, and Kayla was its first recipient. Enough to cover Noah's school, clear her debts, and breathe easy. But the real tearjerker? A second envelope with her gloves, cleaned, repaired, and a note, "You remembered me. Now I remember you. You brought me back. Now I'll never forget. HR." That Sunday, the town gathered, no fanfare, just chairs and a podium. Colonel Harrow spoke, then stepped back. General Roth strode forward, flanked by soldiers and veterans. They lined up by the restored fence, and Roth saluted the bench. Can you believe it? One by one, everyone joined, soldiers, townsfolk, even cranky Mrs. Collins. Later, as Kayla sat there, a child pointed. "Mom, is that where the nice lady fed the soldier?" The mother nodded, and Kayla smiled. She didn't need medals, just a memory, a coin, a bench, and a man once lost, now found. Because sometimes, saving one person is enough to light up the world. Man, the story of Kayla and General Hayden Roth hits me right in the chest. It's a blazing wake-up call about how we live and who we choose to see. My take? We've got to stop rushing through life like it's some damn race and start giving a damn about the people we pass by. I'm sick of this cold, apathetic world where folks like Roth, heroes, humans, are left to fade into the shadows. It's not just sad, it's infuriating. Kayla's no millionaire, no savior, she's just a waitress with a heart, proving you don't need much to change everything. That's the lifestyle I'm chasing, one where kindness isn't a chore, it's instinct. Socially, this screams at us to ditch the blinders. We're all fighting invisible wars, poverty, trauma, loneliness, and ignoring that is a choice I can't stomach. When Roth salutes Kayla, it's not just respect, it's a roar against a society that forgets. I'm fired up to live louder, to look harder, to act bolder. Because if a simple meal can resurrect a man and ripple through a town, then hell yes, I'm all in for that kind of revolution. In our darkest moments, kindness shines through, often in the quietest corners. Some don't seek glory, they just want someone to eat today. And that? That can change everything. Subscribe to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where kindness lives forever.